My Lords, the debate on Steel Industry Special Measures Act 2025, at the outset, let me congratulate the Minister, Baroness Lloyd, on her excellent maiden speech, and I look forward to the maiden speech of Lord Stockwood. My Lords, I chair the Manufacturing Commission, and manufacturing used to make up 30% of GDP in the UK in the 1970s. Now it makes up less than 10%. And yet the UK, with less than 1% of the world's population, is the 11th largest manufacturer in the world in absolute terms, and that too high-quality manufacturing. Steel, of course, when you think of manufacturing, is as large and heavy-scale manufacturing as you can get. My Lords, I come from the smallest minority community in the world, the Zoroastrian Parsis. There are just 100,000 of us in the world, and I would say we came as refugees from what is today Iran in Persia over 1,000 years ago and settled in India, a country that gave us refuge, and now there are just over 50,000 Parsis in India, 5,000 here in the UK. And the Parsis have excelled in just about every field, including in industry, and the most famous industrialist in India, I would say, is Jamshedji Tata, the founder of the Tata Company. The Tata Iron and Steel Company was founded by Jamshedji Tata and established by Sir Dorab Tata in 1907, and it started producing steel in 1912. When this idea was put forward, a British official said, "I will eat every pound of steel rail they succeed in making." Well, he certainly ate his words. And today, Tata, as a group, is valuation is over $500 billion, one of the largest conglomerates not only in India but in the world, and of course here in the UK, owners of Tata Steel and of Jaguar Land Rover. We have a situation in the UK where the steel industry, as speakers before have said, has struggled to be competitive with all the headwinds against it: tariff uncertainty, high energy costs, the decarbonisation challenges of steel. China, let's get this into context, dominates global supply of steel. 54% of steel is produced by China in the world, and to put it into context, the UK produces 5.6 million tonnes, 0.3% of the world's total. We've got to get this in context. And there has been a surplus of steel in the world, which has pushed down steel prices, and then on the other hand, we've had the energy prices, which have rocketed after Putin's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, when I was president of the CBI, and during my tenure that took place. And now, as chair of the International Chamber of Commerce here in the UK and regional coordinator for Europe, we're witnessing the trade wars, and the ICC, being the largest business organisation in the world, with trade at its focus, is at the heart of these tariff and trade challenges that we face. And here in the UK, right up front, we've got the 25% tariff on all steel imports. Our normal tariff is at 10%. Please note that that is 5 times higher than our tariff was with the United States. It was just 2% either way. And it is completely irrelevant for us to have any tariffs increases at all with the United States, because we have £60 billion of exports, £58 billion of imports from the United States in goods. That's balanced. And in services, we have £130 billion of exports, about £50 billion of imports. We have a services surplus, but there are no tariffs on services. So as it is, it's unfair for us to be imposed any tariffs at all, but there we have it, the 10% baseline and the 25% on steel, and that 25% has been increased to 50%. Where do we stand on this? May I ask the Minister when we close? Are we going to be at 25? But then we were told we were maybe going to be at 0%, and then with President Trump's visit over here, we were hopeful that that 0% would be clarified. Where is our tariff going to be with the United States of America? And of course, the other point is that being such an energy-intensive operation, manufacturing steel, our energy costs, sadly, are some of the highest in the world, and certainly the highest in Europe. We pay 25% more for energy than our competitors in France and Germany, and you can quantify this in various ways, but it's millions of pounds more. And on top of that, we've got decarbonisation, and steel, because of its process, is a significant contributor to greenhouse gases. It is responsible for over 13% of UK greenhouse gases emitted from manufacturing, and 2.2% of the UK's greenhouse gases in total, and yet the steel industry as such is only 0.1% of UK GDP. So decarbonisation is, of course, a priority. The steel industry is trying to do it, and it's also playing an important role because the steel produced is used in renewable energy infrastructure manufacturing, like wind turbines and solar panels. The blast furnaces at Scunthorpe were the only remaining virgin steel primary steel plant left in the UK. And of course, this electric arc furnace method does have much lower carbon emissions, but of course that depends on what source of electricity that you're going to get. The bill has, going through Parliament, there were issues raised by many. I mean, Reform UK on the one hand called for an immediate nationalisation of the British steel industry. I think that the government, the sunset clause was called for by the opposition. Would the Minister consider that a sunset clause might be required? But the emergency measures were taken and the steel industry saved. And parliamentary scrutiny. I mean, every 4 weeks we now get a report. Will we have some sort of an annual review of this procedure? And the good news is that British Steel is seeking now to enrol apprentices over the next 3 years, which is excellent. The cost to the taxpayer now is almost £200 million, but we have saved something. And of course, all the SMEs in the supply chain have also benefited. Of course, noble lords before me have spoken about the steel strategy. Could I ask the Minister to confirm when exactly are we going to get this steel strategy? It was meant to be this year. Is it going to be early next year? When? We've had our industrial strategy, which is great news, which is excellent. And of course, this hopefully will establish a clear long-term vision and how we will achieve that vision, identify gaps, capabilities, investment decisions, and we're all looking forward to it. My Lords, the BBC claimed that the UK government was in favour of merging all the UK steelmakers into one organisation, not in favour of nationalising that entity. Can the Minister give any clarification on that? That sort of rumour that has been circulated. So with this measure, the Act that has been passed, the 2025 Act that we're debating now, it has prevented the closure of the Scunthorpe plant, which employs 2,700 workers. My Lords, when you come to Port Talbot, the Tata Steel plant, there is a great example of partnership between government and business, a £1.25 billion investment, of which the government has given a £500 million grant, moving to an electric arc furnace, which is going to be replacing the blast furnace. This will reduce emissions. Estimates are up to 90%, certainly 70%. It will secure 5,000 direct and supply chain jobs. It will align steel production with net zero objectives. But there will be temporary job losses. And could I urge the Minister to assure us that every help will be given in this transition period where any temporary job losses are avoided? And the extra energy costs, is there anything that we can do as a government to help our steel industry be more competitive? And then, of course, there's the challenge of the European Union, which I will come to in a short while. My Lords, with the output, 6.9 million tonnes, 33,000 jobs, and 2.5 billion in GVA. The tariffs are a huge issue, but can I just make the point about the public-private partnership once again and the subsidies? The con in all this, the pros and the cons, the con is this reliance on subsidies. Can the steel industry be self-sufficient without having to rely on the subsidies? When it comes to the European Union, the European Commission proposes a 47% cut in the tariff-free quotas. And is the UK going to be included within these tariff-free quotas? Because that would be a huge problem. And the steel clusters, the regional impact in Wales, in Yorkshire, in the Midlands, the regional regeneration and training, any transition causing local unemployment, we must avoid that at all costs. My Lords, the company and community union launched a Save Steel, Buy British, seeking a level playing field. And when it comes to that, British Metals Recycling Association They had their export flexibility and circular economy report, and I think this is very important because the UK metals recycling sector, which has just been referred to by the Noble Lord Mohammed before me, it contributes £9 billion to GVA, supports 2,000 businesses and 15,000 direct jobs. And it generates 11 million tonnes of ferrous scrap, but the UK consumes only 2.6. The rest of it is exported. Can we maintain export flexibility? Because at the moment there are bans to certain countries. Can we create a supportive environment so that this industry, which is vital to our steel industry? My Lords, I just want to mention that the Minister, in her excellent maiden speech, spoke about Heathrow. And of course, Baroness Hunter, in an excellent tribute. I would like to pay tribute to her tribute, which was very good. But the Minister mentioned the Heathrow third runway. I mean, that's going to require, according to my memory, 400,000 tonnes of steel, and that should be British steel being used in that. What is going to happen about Heathrow? I remember Sir Howard Davies sitting next to him when his commission recommended the third runway at Heathrow Airport. Correct me if I'm wrong, that was over a decade ago. We still haven't decided on which option to go for. I declare my interest. Surinder Arora is a close friend of mine and one of the country's great entrepreneurs. He'd put forward an option. Heathrow have put forward an option. Let's make a choice. Let's get that runway built as soon as possible. Look at Gatwick. Gatwick is now the second runway. I was always said we should not either Heathrow or Gatwick, both, and I'm delighted the government has done that. Let's make the decision with Heathrow as well. In India, when I was there just now with the Prime Minister, the announcement was made in India on the day we were in Mumbai that India is opening up its new Bombay terminal, 90 million passengers a year, in addition to the terminal it already has. Dubai Airport, if you go to, that's what we're competing with, and this is the greatest city in the world. We should have the best airport transport in the world as well. And before I conclude, the EU is the biggest customer of UK steel. 78% of all steel goes to the EU, and we've got to address this issue about the tariffs. Again, please could I request the Minister to give clarity on that. And the EU, on the other hand, the steelmakers are very happy, but the automakers in the EU are very worried because the tariffs are going to cause their prices to go up and cause inflation. So, my Lords, to conclude, the Tata Steel, the one point I want to make, everyone talks about Port Talbot, but if you look at the map of where Tata Steel are around the country, they're all over the country, in Hartlepool, in Sheffield, in Corby, in Imperial College, and in North England, East England, in Swansea, everywhere. And that point is very important to make, that the steel industry is not just one or two places, it affects the whole of the United Kingdom. It's one of the most important industries to our country, and I'm delighted that the government is giving it top priority.